We don't know what the final terms of reference for the Grenfell inquiry are going to be. Now, if the public inquiry throws a narrow loop around the tower and says, we're just going to look at what happened in the Grenfell Tower, it's going to be a farce. It's scarcely going to be worth the paper that it's going to be printed on, because actually this is about something much, much bigger than this. And the reason for this is that it's the government which is allowed to set the terms of the inquiry. It is the government which is allowed to vet the chair of the inquiry. We don't allow defendants in a criminal trial to determine which charges they're going to be tried on. We don't allow them to vet the judge. The government should have no role whatsoever in these decisions, because basically it is then being asked to judge its own failures, and that it will never do. What happened in the Grenfell Tower was murder. It was mass murder. And it wasn't like people said, oh, let's set up a fire trap so that we can torch lots of people. No, that's not how it happened. But it's let's strip away all the public protections which prevent lots of people from being incinerated. And there's a whole infrastructure of fake think tanks, of these neoliberal lobby groups funded by dark money, journalists, columnists in the corporate press, government ministers and government advisors, whose whole role in life is to try to destroy public protections, because those public protections limit corporate profits. We've got the Red Tape Initiative, set up by Sir Oliver Letwin, Conservative MP, with his mates. The best man at his wedding, Charles Moore, former editor of The Telegraph, former chair of Policy Exchange, this dark money funded lobby group for neoliberalism. He sits on the panel of the Red Tape Initiative. So does the guy who founded Policy Exchange, Archie Norman, former chief executive of ASDA, former Tory MP for Tunbridge Wells, who now coordinates with the current Tory MP for Tunbridge Wells, Greg Clark, who's the Red Tape Initiative's link into government and provides official support for them. Michael Gove, until he became Secretary of State for the Environment, also sat on the panel and, surprise, surprise, was the first chairman of Policy Exchange. Baroness Rock, who is a childhood friend of George Osborne's, married to the fantastically wealthy financier Caspar Rock, former vice chairman of the Conservative Party with special responsibility for giving business what it wanted. And Lord Marland, this multi-millionaire businessman, fingers in loads of different pies, wife is the High Sheriff of Wiltshire, owns 5 properties in London, properties in Switzerland, properties in France. A whole series of these people, almost perfectly insulated from hazard by their extreme wealth. Sitting back and deciding, shall we strip away these ones? We'll call that red tape and recommend that that's stripped away. This completely unrepresentative sample of society. And Sir Oliver Letwin MP, who founded the Red Tape Initiative, has this to say about public protections. The call to minimise risk is the call for a cowardly society. So those people living in tower blocks who don't want exposed gas pipes and flammable insulation and no fire exits, emergency access bays blocked by other traffic and all the rest of it that the Grenfell Residents Action Group had been complaining about for years, those people are cowards. They want a cowardly society because they don't want to be incinerated. I mean, what sort of cowardice is that? It's craven, isn't it? Yeah, whereas the really brave people are the people like Oliver Letwin and Lord Marland and Baroness Rock and Charles Moore, completely insulated from any kind of involuntary risk by their fabulous amounts of money. These apparently are the courageous people. Don't we admire them? That's what they ask us to do. Admire them as the brave and the rest of society as the cowards. I feel the only appropriate response at the moment is to maintain the pressure on government through continued protests, through continued demands for justice for the victims and survivors of that fire, and through a demand that this ridiculous farce of a public inquiry which we're seeing so far is transformed into something which actually asks the questions that need to be asked and seeks the answers that need to be found.